about the need for a federal telework policy. Who's the federal employee here, right? Telework is actually really good for both the government and for its employees. You can save money on facilities, supplies. You know, if the person's at home, they're putting the internet in power costs, not the government. It's also really helpful that it can ensure productivity when the government would normally shut down. If anyone was in D.C. a couple of years ago, remember Snowmageddon, and a lot of money was lost. A lot of days of productivity were lost. And if there was a telework policy, people would have been able to work at home. And it also helps morale. Employees are happier. You know, they spend less time on the road, more time with their families. They're more comfortable. They're happier. It's a lot more fun doing work in your pajamas with a cat on your lap than it is sitting in your cube. But there's some problems if it's not implemented fairly and deliberately. Some supervisors might just say no arbitrarily. Some supervisors like management by walking around, and that's not necessarily fair for the employees. But on the employee's side, you have to make sure that there's some level of accountability. You make sure that your employee actually is working and, you know, not watching The Price is Right all day long. And it also needs to be, you can't use it to reward poor performers. So the only way to make sure that you can get these benefits without actually suffering from these disadvantages is to actually develop a formal policy that you can implement within your organization. And I think there are 3 steps that this policy really, really needs to include. So first, it needs to define who is eligible. So it's not up to supervisory whim, but at the same time, that poor performers, people that consistently don't make the grade, are rewarded and given this advantage. Second, it does need to be tied directly to performance. If you're good, yay, telework. But if your performance really starts to slip, well, then your supervisor can actually say, well, I'm sorry, you're going to need to come to work every day because your performance does not, your performance indicates that you can't really have this advantage. And then it also needs to codify accountability. So depending on how that looks, it can either be an employee sends an email at the end of the day saying this is what I've done, or just some way that supervisors can account for that time. So if this is implemented appropriately, it really is good for all involved. Employees are happier, money is saved, everything's PG. But you can't just run forward and actually just say, hey, go telework. So you need to develop an actual policy. You need to have it approved through management, through the assistant secretary, through the Office of General Counsel, and then through Office of Personnel Management, just to make sure that all your T's are crossed and I's are dotted. But once you actually get this approved by the powers that be and actually get it implemented and let your employees actually start, I think it'll be best for all.